Hey guys, so this is the first episode of a new podcast series I'm starting called Amongst the Uncommon, where I talk to people who I think have achieved uncommon results in the context of high school, VCE, and university. I'll also be discussing some of the books and interviews of people that I find interesting. I love having long discussions with friends on these topics, and I hope you guys can take something away from it. Alright, so today I have my friend Anna with me. She's a great friend of mine. We went to the same school, and we both graduated from John Monash Science School. And we studied together a lot during year 12, and in many ways, we're very like minded, and we both aimed high and put in the work. Just for some background, Anna achieved an ATAR of 98.20, got a 43 in biology, 42 in English, and 42 in methods. And having gone through that journey with her, I can say that she has earned every bit, if not more, of what she has achieved through her hard work and just putting in the hours. Today, we touched up on some topics such as dealing with exam stress, revision, logistics of year 12, and some English and method specific advice, as well as our perspective now as first year uni students on how we handled VCE and whether ATAR was actually the most important thing. So, a lot to take away from the episode, and let's get into it. First of all, Anna, do you want to talk about how we kind of met? I think it was in year 11.
Yeah. So Kenny was new to our school. He came to John Monash in year 11, and we were in the same um, loat time slot where we studied together. And we were only there for a couple weeks, but that wasn't when we actually bonded. We weren't very close then. But then I think it was in year 12 when we just started talking in our free periods and stuff, when we became good friends and started studying together and stuff, and then here we are.
Yeah, man. So it's funny thinking back because we just had the same study period, and then we didn't really talk much in year 11.
Yeah.
But year 12, when we really tuned in, I was like, okay, it's really time to study. And I would always see Anna sitting by herself studying. And that really inspired me, actually. So, first of all, I want to ask you, because I got this from you. I talked about this on Raj's podcast of not being afraid to be the kind of the one sitting by himself. And you really inspired me in that manner because you weren't afraid of how people, or at least it didn't seem like you were. So do you want to talk about how you get over that and why it's important to actually distance yourself when you do need to focus?
Yeah. So I feel like the people that you surround yourself with really affects your mindset. So my goal in VCE was just to kind of do my best and get the best results I could. And I knew that my friends from year 11 weren't aiming for the same thing. So I guess my choice was either I can just surround myself with people who aren't who don't have the same academic goals as me, which I knew would push me back and distract me, or I could just go solo. So I just chose to go solo and just hoped that everything would work out and it would pay off. And it wasn't like I was completely distant from them. I would still text them here and there, but it wasn't a one-on-one anymore. And I feel like I actually lost a lot of friends in year 12 as well, obviously, because I wasn't talking to them much. But hey, it paid off, and I don't think I regret any of it. So that's the good thing.
Yeah, that's good. So what was your goal going into VC? Did you have a goal for ATAR or did you want to get into a specific course?
I think it was just my ATAR, and in year 11 and 10, I felt like I didn't achieve my potential. I was a bit of a party animal back then, so I'd be going out very often, and I wouldn't study as much. And coming into year 12, I was like, okay, I think it's time to change and really put my head down because this is when it really matters.
Yeah, that's what I
So
find really interesting because, in year 11, obviously I didn't know you as well, but you seem like such a different person, and we've talked about this a lot, just when we chatted recently. But yeah, it's so surprising seeing such a big transition because normally, yeah, do you want to talk about what sort of made you want to make that change? Did you just feel like year 12 was more of a big deal, or is that when you started thinking about your future?
yeah, it was just, I knew that if I looked back after finishing year 12, I'd regret not trying my best. And I feel like not trying your best is worse than getting a shitty result. So um, that's where it stemmed from, just not wanting to regret the whole process.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Yeah, and that's what's driven me as well. So, I know you have some really good methods advice that you want to dispense to people, and yeah, do you want to just talk about? So maybe start with. I know exams are coming up pretty soon, so do you have any tips for actually dealing with exam? Because at this stage, it's a bit late for people to start doing the whole studying process again. So yeah, if you have anything on that.
Yeah, I feel like the whole like exam process for me is a bit of a blur. I remember being super stressed out. But I think not being stressed out is the key to doing your best on exam day. So as hard as it sounds, just try to like meditate and just tell yourself that all the hard work you've done will definitely pay off and look at it from a positive lens instead of, freaking out before. And this is a thing that I learned from one of the teachers at John Monash. She would just tell us to do, just like sit there quietly with your eyes closed for a minute before reading time starts and check in with yourself and actually check out Hoffman for like breathing techniques. I remember doing that right before the exam as well because I knew my heart was racing really hard and my hands were sweating and stuff. It was crazy. I feel like my body just went on adrenaline mode or something.
Yeah, I felt the same way during my first English exam for sure. I was like a little bit shaky. I wasn't too nervous, but like right before when we were just like sitting there waiting for the exam to start, that was the most kind of nerve-wracking part for me. And yeah, definitely I had like this, it's kind of like square breathing and what you mentioned with the breathing method, yeah, it definitely helps. And I think, but it's something that I feel like people should develop before the actual exam day. So it's not just something you do, like it doesn't just work when you just pick it up, you kind of have to do at least a little bit of practice to like get used to it. And like, is the Hoffman breathing technique like do you want to talk about what it's like? Because I feel like we're not thinking about the same one because the one I tried, it like made me really lightheaded and yeah, so do you want to talk about what that process is like?
So I've only tried one. I know there's many, but there's one on YouTube where they take you through 3 cycles. So obviously you won't do all 3 cycles in the beginning of the exam, but you breathe really fast for like a little bit and then you hold your breath and then you just breathe normally. And for some reason, like it
that
really
one kid just
helps.
hyperventilating, like sitting down before the exam starts. The examiner's gonna be like, "What is wrong with this kid?" Like, no, but
Just make it look normal, guys. It's fine.
Yeah, just keep it low key. Don't like fall and just freak out like you're dying. Like it's too late for C's points at that point. But yeah, I think that's pretty good advice. Yeah, so just have like your own routine, I guess, to deal with stress. And I really love the quote by Kobe. So he was like, "Okay, the reason why I'm able to seem really like cold blooded when the moment is really weighing on me is that because I've taken the same shot 1,000 times in practice. So what's one more shot?" So I really love that. So if you've done your practice exams, maybe not 1,000 times, but like enough, then what's just one more? Like it's like that sense of familiarity that really helps. And yeah, and another note is that it really depends on how you frame it for yourself as well. So because the physiology reaction of being nervous, so the butterflies in your stomach, I kind of talked about this before, it's really similar to when you're actually excited. So a lot of athletes, they like to kind of frame it for themselves. So instead of being, okay, I'm nervous, they frame it as I'm ready, I'm excited, because it's almost the same feeling and it just depends on how you frame it. So you can either think, okay, this is the one moment where I can ruin every part of my, like all my work throughout the year, or you can be confident and know you did the work and trust your training. So, and then you can say to yourself, okay, this is the moment where I actually prove myself and all my work is going to come into fruition, right? So there's kind of 2 ways to think about it. And yeah, I think mindset is really important. Obviously, there's nothing that beats preparation. Like if you didn't prepare, it doesn't matter how you talk to yourself on the day, like, you're going to like shit your pants. But if you did the work and done the preparation, I think it's just a lot more easy on the day. So
yeah, definitely. I don't remember exactly how I feel on Methods Day, but recently I did the UCAT again and I feel like I felt that feeling. So I'd been preparing for the test for about like 2 months and then it was finally exam day and I felt like I couldn't believe that it was exam day already. I felt like I'd just be preparing forever and like the moment where all my hard work has to kind of go in to like one concentrated, focused 2-hour session was just kind of bizarre and weird. But yeah, I completely agree with what you said, Kenny. Just like choosing to be excited instead of being nervous and realizing that you have that choice. So it's like you can just be excited instead of being nervous,
Yeah, for sure. So looking back to year 12, and this can be any subject, but if we want to stay on the topic of methods, what is one sort of habit that has really helped you throughout the year to either get through content or whatever it is, doing practice exams? So did you have a routine? Did you have a specific thing you did every day to make sure you did that work?
Yeah, so for methods, I had a really rigorous routine, and I think that's what got me the score that I got. Because looking back at year 11 and 10, I was a very mediocre math student, and I like absolutely hated maths because I was so bad at it and it required so much effort. And I'm pretty sure in my year 12, I put the most effort in methods as well. So what I did was I would stay about 4 weeks ahead of class. So that was my tutor. I had a tutor in year 12, and he really helped me get through the whole thing. I have no clue what I would have done without his guidance. I feel like more than the content, he just provided a good structure to follow. So how we would do it is we'd have tuition once a week. And in that class, I would go through content, and then throughout the whole week, so the other 6 days, I'd spend about 30 minutes every night on methods. And then I'd just repeat that until term 4, where I would do like 3 or 4 practice exams like per week.
This is interesting about how you said getting ahead of the class. So by a month content, that is quite a lot. So what do you do during the classes when they cover the content again? Because I find that to be a big kind of dichotomy to balance of getting ahead versus like wasting time in class. So how do you kind of balance that?
Yeah, so I remember either treating the class as revision or just like using it to do more practice questions. So I used to be that kid that would just sit at the back and like try not to get noticed, kind of grinding on like practice questions. Probably like not the most ideal thing, but that's what I did.
Yeah, I've had that same practice for pretty much of high school. Like even in year 10, I remember, yeah, being the same kid of just sitting in the back and doing my own thing while the class did their thing. But at the same time, having spoken to other, so Amitav and I think Angad, so they brought up a really good point of saying like, I was asking them, okay, do you get ahead? Do you like study content beforehand? And they actually said no, because if you can focus really well in class, because the teacher teaching is actually more efficient and at least energy efficient than you sitting down and reading the textbook. Like, yeah, you can do that, which helps you to become a more independent learner. But at the same time, if you're gonna be in that class anyways, I think they make a valid point of being okay. Use that time to actually learn, and then use your spare time to actually do more practice instead of getting ahead in content. Because what I found was that as the month went on, so later into the terms, I would have forgotten a lot of the content that I studied earlier during the term, and that was a big issue. So, what did you find the same, or did you have like a way of counteracting that?
Yeah, a really good tip that I was taught by my tutor was I would write all the questions that I got wrong in a little textbook. And then I'd look back on that textbook like every night. So that way, if I ever came across a similar question, I knew how to tackle it because I was very conscious of my mistakes. Because I'd been like looking at how I made the mistake and going through the thought process that led me to make that mistake continuously. And I feel like that's how I didn't forget content. It's like even though I wasn't doing the practice questions, I was taking my brain through the process anyway by looking through my previous errors.
Was that just like a nightly thing? Did you schedule a time in, or was it because I find that really hard, even though I know revision is super important, but I don't actually find the time in the day to read through my notes enough. So, did you have like a routine, or how did you go about doing that?
I feel like I didn't really have a routine for it, but it's just I had it on my nightstand, and as soon as I'd like kind of get into bed, just take a minute, like 5 minutes, and flick through the book, and then just go to bed.
Okay, yeah, I think that could be a good practice. Just having it within close vicinity to wherever you're gonna be. Yeah, I think that's
Mm,
pretty good. If I just bury it with like a pile of books, I don't think I'll ever touch it because
yeah.
I always feel like I can like learn more content or like do some practice questions, and I like yeah, it's an easy pitfall to. It's a common mistake people make of like just not revising enough, and yeah, I definitely felt that through like year 8 to like year 10. I remember learning quadratics like 3 separate times just because I would like learn and then get ahead but then like forget. So yeah, revision is super big. It can almost seem less rewarding in my experience because you don't feel like you're learning new stuff.
Mm,
But at the same time, it is super important to do because it's so much easier to. It's kind of like static friction versus like ongoing friction. Once you get the ball rolling, it's much easier to keep it going with less force rather than like forgetting everything again and trying to, make that mental breakthrough of understanding. So that takes so much more time. And yeah, I think that's really good advice. So revision. So set a routine, keep it, close to your nightstand, and yeah, just take some time out every day to revise that.
yeah, and I feel like for me, what helped was having someone to keep me accountable. So with my tutor, he'd make us message him, no, not message him, or email him every night about the work we'd done and if we've done any revision. So if you kind of type and reflect on what you did that day, it makes you realize, hey, I did enough, or hey, maybe tomorrow I'll do more. So I guess it's just about obviously every single day you're not going to be perfect, but it's just being conscious of that and then trying to do better the next day, you know?
hmm
Mm.
Another topic I wanted to touch on was diet and nutrition during your top. We're both laughing because yeah, I
That
don't think
was
we
so
did the greatest
non-existent.
job yet. Do you want to talk about how you?
Oh my
What
God,
was
I
it like for
remember
you?
having like cup noodles for lunch like every day. It was so bad. I feel like back then I didn't consider nutritional health to be a huge part of VCE. And I would even like sleep. I wouldn't get enough sleep. I think I'd sleep like 6, 7 hours and then try to sleep here and there on the train because my train ride from home to school was like an hour and a half. But it wasn't consistent and that's why I felt so tired all the time. Looking back, I would change that, but back then I was just like it made me feel good. It made me feel like I was trying super hard by like compromising on my sleep. It was really stupid the way I thought about it.
No, I
But
totally get that. It's like the
yeah.
romanticizing of like just being super scrappy, like all those
Yeah.
entrepreneurial stories, you live in a basement or like you sleep in the office and you just eat cup noodles.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
get that, but yeah, at the same time, definitely advise against that. So,
Definitely.
bring good food, pack
Mm,
your lunch. It makes a super big difference. Like,
definitely.
yeah, but I've only realized that after year 12, but it would have been so much. Yeah. But outside of nutrition, what kind of tips do you have for people to kind of recuperate their energy after like a long day of studying? Do you have any, so napping or things
Yeah,
like that?
I know what Kenny does. So he takes a 10-minute nap every night. We'd just be sitting on the table studying, and Kenny would be like, okay, give me 10 minutes, and just like snooze off for 10. It was crazy, but apparently it helped him revive
Yeah, it definitely
from.
did. But yeah, so literally just after school, when you're feeling that brain fog come on, just like set a 10-minute timer and just lie down on your desk with like a friend that you trust to not like steal your stuff or like wake you up on time. And then, yeah, just lie down to sleep. But
Yeah.
yeah, I find sometimes though, when I sleep too long, I can feel a bit worse. But overall, you do feel more energetic. So yeah, don't go
Mm.
beyond 15, I'd say. I think most people is around that like 10 to 12 range. Yeah, Anna's nodding. Yeah, she's. I think you do like 12 minutes. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, around that.
yeah.
But I feel like another really good tip is to go to bed and wake up at the same time. So even on weekends, if you like say that I'm gonna go to bed at 11 and wake up at let's say 7, and you do that on school days because it gets you to school on time and gets you enough sleep, but do that on weekends as well. You know, it'll help you develop a routine and it'll help your body adjust so you can have more energy throughout the whole day instead of just crashing at 6 o'clock and then spending the rest of the day just like watching TV or something or studying unproductively. I feel like when you don't have energy, you're not as productive when you're studying or
Mm.
yeah, or at least you're not as focused, so it makes a difference.
Yeah, for sure. And what do you think? A lot of people like to talk about talent versus hard work. What
Mm.
is your perspective on that? Which is more important? And do you think like how would you rank yourself in terms of talent? And how do you like scale that towards your score? So how much would you attribute that to either?
Yeah, so for me, I feel like my story is about how hard work can get you the score that you want. So in year 11 and 10, like my scores were miserable. I remember scoring like 60, 50% on tests. I feel like the reason I didn't score as well was one, because I didn't take it as seriously. It was just 1, 2, and that's how I think about it. I think that it didn't matter and didn't add any value to my 3, 4 results. But don't like get trapped in that, because it really does. I remember also having to go through all my 1, 2 content in the summer holidays because I didn't pay attention throughout the whole year. So if you do mess up in like before your 3, 4, or even if you mess up a SAC in your 3, 4, there's always coming back from that. And just realizing that the exam is more weighted than anything else. So I remember, from what I remember, I got a B plus on my SACs and an A plus on my exam, and that really boosted up my score. So even though exam isn't the whole thing, it still is a lot of it. So hey, if you like mess up one thing, it doesn't matter, and there's always coming back. And I think hard work is the way to go. I feel like talent can take you places, but if you don't have it, like I feel like I'm not a talented person, but if I work really hard at something, it'll happen for me. So
So how would you, okay, if we say 5 is the average across the state, so if you had to rely on your raw talent, where would you rank yourself?
yeah, I think I'd probably be average. I'd be 5.
You think you'd be 5?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, yeah, because like once you see some of the really talented people and then it seems like they can just achieve so much more with the less effort. Yeah, I feel the
Mm,
same way. Like I think I pick up things fairly quickly, but it's not like it's not easy for sure. Like I feel like sometimes I'm a bit behind in class. Like whereas like the really smart kids would have like gotten it, I'd be like, okay, I'm still confused and I need to put in more time into that. So
mm.
yeah, definitely I'd be like around like maybe a 6, 5 to 6, so somewhere around there. And I think yeah, definitely hard work takes you the rest of the way. So
Mm.
yeah,
And I feel like it's like talented people don't just wake up with talent. I reckon it also comes down to habit. So you see a lot of people excel in English, and you feel like they don't put a lot of effort in, but maybe they've been avid readers all their life. And
that's a
they've,
really good point. Yes,
yeah. So it's like they just have habits that have helped them be better.
for sure. Yeah, because I see a lot of people, they say they don't, they're just not good at math. Like they're just not born with that kind of thing. Oh, that's how they think. But at the same time, it's like I think it went wrong at the foundation stage. So
Definitely.
even I remember in primary school, like because my dad used to like just push me because like after we came from China and then he was just like really into math, typical Asian parents, and then he would like teach me stuff ahead of the class, and then that gave me the confidence to think, okay, I'm actually doing well, and then
Mm,
I think that goes a long way, even though it's just the beginning, but it gives you a sort of confidence, like okay, I can do this, instead of like when you fall behind at an early stage, you think, okay, the math is just not for me. And then
mm,
later stages, you see people, it seems like it comes naturally to them, but maybe it's just because, like, at least for me, it's because I really laid the foundations and I like did those really tedious kind of practice on the really basic stuff. So people like algebra or fractions. So it sounds really simple, but these are the little things that really gave me confidence. Like I feel like, okay, I can do this. And that confidence really expands into like a gauge of your own ability. So you don't fall into that trap of saying, okay, I just wasn't born for this. Maybe it's like what Anna said about being an avid reader. It's kind of like that with math. So if you've been doing a lot of math, then like it'll feel more natural and easier to you. So yeah, I think that's a good point as well. So it's not just what you see. You might look easy, but at the same time, you don't know what work they put in. So
mm.
yeah. And
Definitely. And I guess the good thing is that it's never too late. Well, it might be too late for the year 12s this year. But I guess for the year 11s, you've still got summer holidays, and if you suck at maths, because I remember having to go back to like year 10 maths to get my foundations straight. And that's what I did, and it pays off. So, yeah, if you just organize your time effectively and also know what you suck at. So maybe have a look at the tests you've done in the past, or maybe sit a test, like a year 11 test that you might not do as well on. But the point of that is to find out what you don't get, so you can focus on that.
mm, which area, like, because methods, it really doesn't have that many major topics. So which one would you
Mm.
say was the hardest, most challenging one for you?
I remember really struggling on probability.
Right. So
Yeah.
probability, yeah, it was, yeah, for sure. Now, like looking back, it was probably like one of the more shaky foundations as well for me.
Mm.
So, do you have any advice on? So, like, first of all, how did you notice that? Like, what was the process of self reflection and like because knowing what you're bad at is really important, right? Before you can fix it.
Mm.
So, one, like, how did you know that? And secondly, how did you go about addressing that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I would do 30 minutes of practice every night. So that'd be timed practice. So I'd give myself 30 questions to go through as many 30 minutes to go through as many questions as possible. And for probability, I found that it took me the longest, and I also got the most questions incorrect. So that's how I figured that statistics wasn't my strong suit, and we went from there. So I just did more questions, and don't be afraid to ask and look dumb and stupid. Like, it's fine. I used to hate being wrong and hate looking dumb, but they're just your teachers, honestly. They've like seen worse, so it's fine.
They've
If
seen worse.
so, if you have any questions, even though they might seem simple, just don't judge yourself on it and just go ask, and it'll be fine. And you can just go from there.
Yeah, not afraid to making yourself look dumb. That's like, I think that's almost as hard as being like looking like a loner, like just studying by
Yeah,
yourself. Because like,
yeah.
yeah, I personally, I don't. It depends on the teacher a lot. I feel like, and it depends
Mm,
on the cohort with you at the time. So your classmates. So are you like friends with everyone, or if it's like you don't know many people in that class, these
mm,
things can really affect how likely I am to ask a risky question that potentially makes myself look dumb. But yeah, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like
yeah.
I think this is a really good point on like just being self conscious in general because I think people don't realize how much other people don't care.
Mm,
Like because like a really good quote or saying like I've heard is like, okay, try to think of a time where your friend has really embarrassed themselves and then just think to yourself and then like you realize most of the time you can't even come up with anything. And
mm,
that's the same way with everyone. And I found that to be really helpful, especially like on those nights where you can't sleep when your mind is just churning, like it brings up like a million dumb stuff like you did in the past. Like it's a good thing to realize like look, you don't matter. People are not gonna remember this and it's all about your personal growth and
mm,
it's your journey. So yeah, try not to get stuck on how people will judge you and just make the most of your resources. And also that
definitely.
reminds me of like what was your relationship like with your teachers?
I feel like because I didn't pay too much attention in class, it was a bit non-existent. But some of my teachers were really lovely. I remember my maths teacher. I completely forgot his name, but he was
Mr. May?
amazing. Yeah, Mr. May.
There
Yes,
you go.
Mr. May was my maths teacher, and he was just great, and he was so approachable. And I remember at lunch times, I'd get him to come and explain some questions to me, and he'd just spend the whole of his lunch just eating and explaining. It was just so nice. But otherwise, I remember having some really shitty teachers too that I like probably never spoke to and probably like hated because they gave me shitty scores sometimes. But I like that's a good point. Like for English, I felt like different teachers marked in different ways. Did you find that?
I definitely did.
Yeah. So I feel like my teacher was just really harsh. But I feel like you have to figure out what that teacher likes to see. So in the practice that I did in class, I tried to do it in like different ways and bring up different points to kind of figure out what kind of points my teacher likes to see and like agrees with. So I can definitely put them in my SACs and try to like get those marks, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a question that a lot of people have when it comes to English is like, do I trust my teachers? Like, because they can mark us, because I know people who have private tutors, they might tell them a different way to um, go about doing the exam, whereas versus SACs, where it's all about appealing to your teachers.
Mm,
So, yeah, I think like the issue of trust and like doubting, okay, is this really the right way? And yeah, English, you definitely get varied feedback. So for me, how I did it was I literally just stuck with one teacher because
mm,
I never had any tutors during high school. And so my only source of feedback was Mr. Anderson. Props to him, really awesome English teacher. And yeah, so even though I had two teachers, so we had a double class, I only gave my essays to him, and I think it helps to get different opinions, but at the same time, I think that's worked well for me as well. Just going with one teacher and like just placing your bets on like he knows what he's doing. So yeah, and I feel like he was pretty experienced. So yeah, I had that trust in him. But yeah, I think it's better than being pulled in two different directions and not really forming your style and not really kind of, because one teacher they might get you to address one thing, but then another teacher they might focus on another, but then you might end up not addressing any because you're so focused on, okay, which one's actually right, you know? So yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say I actually had a tutor for English as well. I had a few tutors. I had 3 tutors in year 12. And how I went about the English exam was very different to how I went about the SACs. So for the SACs, it was all about what my teacher wanted. But for the exams, so the tutor that I had, he'd marked VCE exams before. So he was able to like, so we wrote a lot of practice essays, and I kind of knew that what points I would bring up. So in the exam, all I had to do was manipulate them to the topic. Do you know what I mean, Kenny?
Did you? Yeah. I've definitely heard of that approach. So did you memorize chunks of essays or ideas?
Yes. So I memorized ideas and even some really fancy lines with like good vocab. It's like if you kind of read over something like multiple times, that word will kind of just come into your head whenever you're writing. So just like, because I felt like my vocabulary wasn't that developed in year 12 because I wasn't an avid reader back in the days. So I kind of compensated for that by memorizing.
Right. Yeah. I had a similar approach for especially language analysis because I had like a bank of like just really fancy words that that I kept and read over a lot. And you try to incorporate that into your essays, and it definitely makes it sound better. But for the exam, was that also your approach? Did you memorize a lot of points and paragraphs?
Yeah. So that was my approach for the book that we were reading, the essay about the book.
All the Light, we can all see.
Yes, All the Light.
One. Yep.
So I just so what I'd written before, I'd memorize those ideas, and with those ideas, I'd associate some really good words and some other like sub points that I wanted to put in. And I remember writing one of them like word to word. So that was my approach.
Yeah. That's interesting because English, I remember, was like one of the only subjects where I found a lot of value in collaborating. So I can't remember if you remember us doing this, but I used to just grab Anna after school and I'd be like, okay, here's a prompt, and then let's come up with some like ideas and topic sentences, and then I would like store that somewhere, and we can both benefit from that because it's definitely having another person's input is really valuable in that sense. Whereas for math is kind of like there's not too much point collaborating, you know. But English, is definitely having other person's ideas. It definitely helps. So would you recommend that?
I highly recommend that. I feel like Kenny really made me see how I was repeating points, and I just used that one word like way too many times. And that's something like my teachers couldn't pick up on because they didn't see the brainstorm. They only saw the final thing. But if you brainstorm with someone, they see things that you might not, and that really helps.
Right. So it's about like kind of getting someone else to know your process of thinking instead of just seeing the final draft. Yeah, that makes sense. Going back to English exams and SACs, have you ever had moments where you really blanked out on a section in the essay and just really like not panicked, but like had a moment where you felt stuck? And like if so, like how did you go about addressing that instead of letting the whole thing fall apart from there?
Yeah, I feel like it hasn't happened with SACs because of the way I approached it. So even like for SACs, I'd just have the main points in my head. So what I did, I'd have themes and then I'd associate points to those themes. So obviously the essay topic has to be to do with one or more themes. So if you know what you're going to write about, you'll be fine. But what I did trip up on was the oral. So I remember just going in and I had some of my year 10 teachers there that I hadn't seen in so long, and for some reason I just completely freaked out. But the teachers were lovely and I just took a moment to collect myself, and that time was actually I was taking time from the allocated like slot that I had to do the speech. But if I didn't collect myself then, I'd just be mumbling and wouldn't make any sense. So
Do you remember what made you trip up? Like what triggered that?
I don't know. I feel like I'm just not much of a public speaker in general. And even though it was just 2 people,
Did you get
I just
nervous from the
freaked out.
panelist?
Yeah.
Or was
Yeah,
it like you
yeah.
forgot like what you were saying?
I think it was a bit of both.
Bit of both.
Yeah. And then if you just take some time to just collect yourself and start again, then it would be fine. I remember I even like got cut off before I finished.
That's rough. That's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it was so bad. And it was probably like my worst score.
Was it because you went overtime?
English. Yeah. So I was going overtime because I'd taken that time to just like, collect myself.
Yeah.
So I didn't finish my speech and I came out just like dead inside.
So if you were to do it again, how
So
would you
bummed out.
go about like addressing those sort of mistakes you made? So is it leaving more time into the speech so you can account for these things, or well, how would you go about doing it better if you had to do it again?
I feel like I didn't like say the speech out loud in front of people enough. So maybe I'd practice with friends or family. I'd do that because I remember for my speech I kind of just memorized it in my head and didn't really vocalize it, or if I did, it would just be with myself. So maybe I freaked out because there were people listening to me now, and it just felt different. So I guess it's just about kind of mimicking that scenario of really having to deliver that speech in a formal setting.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I remember you being super helpful, like right before my oral. Like you just listened to me like ramble on like over and over again, and that definitely helps. And I think go find those friends that you're not super close with, and like you kind of know them, and they're like nice enough to help you, but you're still kind of like uncomfortable in front of them. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah.
So instead of like going to your bros and just like you're not afraid to embarrass yourself, like go to someone you're actually afraid of embarrassing yourself in front of, or like at least a little bit uncomfortable, and then do that. So yeah, super good practice. Yeah, I remember for
that's really good.
my oral as well, it was a tiny room, so you already feel cramped, and then the 2 teachers, you just face them and you have to present. So it was definitely nerve-wracking, but once I got started, I felt a bit more comfortable because, again, like I've practiced so much, and at that point, I think a really good point about public speaking and doing your oral is that it's okay to slow down and pause. So instead of, because people don't give themselves enough time, or like they think others are so critical of that, but we give other people more room for pause than we do for ourselves. So I think that's a really good point to get across to people, that, it's okay to, fill things in with silence. You don't always have to go with you can just like fill it. You don't have to like, fill it in with like random words. You can just be silent and just think for a second. And that's okay. And it seems less awkward than just like filling it in with like, so yeah, it's
it feels longer to you than it actually is in real time. So the person listening would think that it's normal for you to take like a 3-4 second pause, and to you it feels like a lifetime.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Just being conscious of that.
Yeah. And I remember for orals, pacing was a big kind of challenge, because when you get nervous, you speak really quick. So building those pauses into your practice, I think, is really important. And obviously, be mindful of the time as well. So I think there was a 30-second leeway for our one. I can't quite remember. Or was it 10 also? I can't remember. But yeah, so I think incorporating more time, so don't fill it up to the brink, and have some time to adjust for errors. And also, if you know you're a fast speaker like me when I get nervous, then make it a bit longer than usual, because you know that you're not going to you're not going to go over time. You're actually going to go under. So yeah, just know how you know yourself. So if you're a fast speaker, then make it longer. If you speak slow or tend to stumble a lot, then, save more time for that. So yeah.
Something that I wish I'd done was, it's like, if you think that you might go over time, what you do is you figure out what the main point of your last paragraph is, and you find a way to summarize it in like 1 sentence or like 2 sentences, so you can finish that so you can at least finish in a way. And if you prepare for that beforehand, if you find a way to summarize the last parts of your speech, then even if you do run out of time in the real thing, you still have that 30-second leeway to bring it all together and finish, you know?
Yeah. But moving away from just English specifically, how would you? Okay, would you do year 12 again if you were given the chance?
Um, like in the
Just like the
ideal
year in
world, I
general.
would. Like, okay, so it's like if I genuinely had the choice to do it now, I'd say no because I feel like it's just done. It was just such a long year. And obviously there are things that if I could go back, I would improve on and probably have a better outcome in terms of score overall. But I don't think I'd want to actually go back and redo the whole thing. What about you?
Because it was tiring.
Yeah, it was so tiresome. And I put so much stress on myself.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I'd like willingly want to repeat. But
I get that.
I
Yeah.
know that by going back again, or at least like knowing what I know now, I'd have a more positive mindset and I'd go about it in a different way.
Yeah, I was just wondering because like a lot of people think of year 12 as like a time where they just suffered. It was just like they
Yeah.
just don't want to do it again. And I definitely felt similar in the sense that it was definitely stressful at times, but at the same time I think I might be biased because I'm looking back now and I think okay, the outcome was good, so maybe that's a biasing me, but I think I would do it again just because it was such a productive time and I honestly enjoyed it because
Mm.
maybe it's because of lockdown I just miss people, but I definitely like remember just wasting time with friends in methods class and like kind of feeling bad about it, but then thinking back, it was actually a really fun time and just like even those after school moments where you just like grind, like me and Anna would just sit down after school and we just like study till 5 o'clock or like the school closes and yeah, like it was tiring, but I think I really weirdly enjoyed that because it you had like a definite purpose to work towards, and it definitely felt fulfilling, even
Mm.
though it can be pretty stressful at times. But talking about stress, what were like some methods you used to deal with it?
I think just having a good support system around you. So whether that be like family or friends or even counselors and stuff if you need it.
Have you ever went to
And
the counselor?
I have been to the counselor. I remember going a few times in year 12 when I was really stressed out. And it really helps to have a third person opinion on some things. So it's like in your head, something might seem so big. But when you vocalize it and explain it to someone else and they kind of say it back to you, you realize that it's not that big of a deal and you can solve it and there's a way out. And I feel like that's what the counselor made me realize that, hey, even though I'm so stressed out, there are ways to kind of not be as stressed out. And I remember sometimes I'd be so paralyzed by the fear of not doing well. And it wasn't even the not doing well part, it was just the judging myself on the not doing well and associating it with my ability altogether.
Did
And
that judgment come from you or did it come from others? Like, did the fear come from others judging you or yourself?
I think it was a bit of both. So obvious, like my parents didn't expect anything of me, as in they didn't say it, but I knew that they did. Like if I got a really bad ATAR or whatever, they'd be disappointed. But it wasn't just that, it was just myself. I feel like I have high expectations of myself. So kind of not doing well meant that I was disappointing myself as well, you know?
Yeah.
Mm.
So, was there a reason? Like, was it just intrinsic? Like, did you just have a habit for like achieving highly, or was it an external goal? Like, you just wanted a number, like a threshold, like above 90 something?
Yeah, it was, I feel like I've always just enjoyed achieving and even the process of it. Like what you said, even though it's like you grind and then you get the score and it's just so relieving and it feels so wholesome and good. And I think sometimes I just felt like, hey, if I don't give myself a break, I'm going to lose the opportunity or this time really matters. So I can't take a break and I have to keep grinding because it's not the end yet. I think that's a quote by Kobe that Kenny says a lot. He just said, "Don't rest."
Rest at the middle. Rest at the end, not the middle.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
sometimes I took that way too literally. So just realizing that it's okay to pause and take a break is really important. And honestly, at the end of the day, it'll like enhance your ability to perform later than looking at it in a way that it's like it's bad, that if I waste this time, it's like not wasting time, it's just taking time out. There's a difference.
Right. Yeah, for sure. There is their difference.
Mm.
Yeah, super important. If I would redo year 12 again, I think I would actually take more time to enjoy the process. Even though I said, okay, it was kind of fun, but in the moment, I think I was much more, I was almost too attached to the outcome and I didn't focus on the actual journey because,
Definitely.
yeah, like year 12 was a special time as well. Like year 11 was definitely the most fun because like less pressure and like more socializing. And but year 12, it can still take out time to, it's not like, it can't be the sole focus of your life. Like, yeah, it is the biggest thing, but if you make it the biggest deal ever, like life or death, as a lot of people like, if it can feel like, yeah, that's literally what it feels like sometimes, especially like right before a SAC, you know, it's such a big deal. But then when you look back at it, it's like, did that thing really matter that much? And usually the answer is no. Like, even if you got a shit ATAR, like, you don't talk about it in uni. You just, if you get into your course, you get into your course. You know, it doesn't, like, obviously it's for yourself. You always have to face that. If you didn't put in 100%, you're gonna judge yourself for the rest of your life. Like, so make sure not to do that. But yeah, I think just taking the time to just enjoy, because when you look back, you're going to realize that year 12 was actually, because now we're in uni, like, I don't know about you, Anna, but like, I feel like I really missed that aspect of structure in year 12 where, you know, everyone went to class together and you had your classmates and you see them every day. It was almost like a different kind of life or society, like community you're part of. So in uni, maybe it's because now of the COVID, but I think I definitely missed that part.
Definitely. And going back to the ATAR, I remember like our career counselor always saying that your ATAR doesn't matter. And I remember just being like, yeah, that's BS. It obviously does matter. but looking back now, I think that it doesn't matter in the sense that even if you don't get into your course, there's a way to get into it. It'll just take you a bit longer.
Yeah, I think it's about that mindset of like, you'll be okay at the end of the day. Like if you just persist, and if you have one singular goal of like, okay, I really want to get into med or something like that, right? So it doesn't matter if you don't do well in this one thing, but at the same time, that's not that's not a excuse to not take VC seriously, because you're going to have to put in that work eventually, whether it's now or later during uni. Because if you want to get to where you are, where you want to go, then you know you're going to face the competition anyway. You can excel now or you have to do it later. So it's definitely not like a get out of jail free card, like, okay, ATAR doesn't matter, so you can just, you know, mess around in year 12. Like, no, it's an opportunity and you're not going to get the same opportunity again unless you repeat. Yeah,
I guess it's, you think about it from the lens that you just want to make your future self's life easier, so you do the work now so you don't have to do it in a couple years, you know.
Yeah, and it makes sense because in a couple of years, everyone else, like, I think VCE was honestly, yeah, everyone was more competitive, but now in university, everyone is so much more mature as well. So if you had that edge in VCE of like, maybe you were slightly more mature, but now everyone else is caught up as well to that level. So maybe in a sense, so yeah, definitely just don't waste that opportunity and yeah, do the best you can. But at the same time, I think I could have pulled back a little bit and enjoyed it a bit more. So yeah, and also like a question I asked you before about the relationship with teachers. I was gonna like comment on that because in year 12 I didn't really have too much relationship with my teachers. Like I liked most of them and they respected the work I did and the amount of hours I put in, but that was it. Like it wasn't, I wish I could have formed a more personal relationship, because now in uni, like I got our principal, Mr. Corkill, he was really nice. Like, and he wrote me a reference, which really helped. And so, yeah, it's about like building those relationships early, even if it's just like going to them after class and just saying hi, you know, treat them like humans. They're not just they're not just they're not just machines to a system. Like they have their individual lives, and I think they'd love to get to know you as well. So, and yeah, even beyond school, because it's just part of building your network. I know I didn't give a shit about that in year 12. I was just like, networks, like people, no, just get a good ATAR. But yeah, like if you can have the foresight to do that and, you know, really build relationships, I think it will help you down along the road. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes teachers are like just as stressed as you are. Like, yeah, it's not their be and be all, it's not their ATAR, but they just genuinely care.
Yeah, I think,
So,
yeah, I'd agree with that. Some teachers, yeah, they put a lot of effort into, and they take a lot of pride in how their students do as well. I think Miss Granger, she was super excited when she heard that I did really well for physics because she was my physics teacher. And yeah, I really, yeah, I like share that energy with her because you can just tell if she's someone that it was really genuinely invested in her students just from the way that she put in the extra work and as well as her, like, you can tell from her reaction. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think overall John Monash has some really nice teachers, and yeah, if you're a John Monash student listening to this, I think yeah, definitely be grateful because I've been to other schools before, and yeah, I don't think it's as like it's definitely a special place in my opinion.
Definitely. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very different to like other schools. And I feel like a reason for that is because of the way it's laid out. Like nothing is closed, everything is so open and you can see everyone, especially teachers. So just like waving and stuff and it's really a close-knit community.
It was funny because they got annoyed eventually, like during
Yeah.
term 3 or 4, and they're like, because before school, I would always like go upstairs. We had 2 levels to our buildings. I would go upstairs and study, but then that's where the teachers hung out, and I think they kind of regret it low key having their offices so exposed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like they kicked everyone off, and then like, but I would still like sneak up, and then like some of the teachers would get mad and like start kicking me off, and I'm just like. I don't make any noise, you know. I just study, and then you could have just like not taken that time to kick me off, and then just did your own thing. But yeah, it was funny. Who was like in year 12? Who do you think had the biggest influence on you? Was it your friends? Was it your teachers or parents?
I think it was my tutors. So I was lucky to have really good tutors who act as mentors in like life as well. So if anything was going on, like they would ask me what happened and I'd like talk to them about it and whatnot. Wait, before I get into that, I just remembered I actually went on a holiday in the middle of year 12. So,
Oh my god! Did you actually?
Yeah, so I went on
Nice.
a 2-week cruise, like in the middle of term 2 or something.
Damn, that's hilarious.
But it was fine. I can't believe I actually got that holiday approved though.
Yeah.
I remember our vice principal being so like disappointed when I asked her if I could have those 2 weeks off.
Like, did you talk to Chair Johnson?
Chair Johnson, yeah.
Oh my! I can't
Yeah.
imagine her approving that. Was it worth it?
It was really fun, yeah, and it
Yeah.
was a good time off. But I still studied in the cruise.
Right.
I remember I just like be in like the food court area studying, and all the parents would just be like looking proudly at me, like, and then looking at their kids, like, why can't you be like that?
Yeah, but meanwhile, like, if they like know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
our perspective is like she went on a cruise during year 12, like damn. Yeah.
But
funny.
anyway, so my tutors, they were just like great people. Even so, I don't know, and I trusted them because they excelled in like whatever they did. They were like a real inspiration. Like, so that just gave me the trust to trust their guidance, you know?
Yeah, I think we talked about this the other day. It's like people can really feel lost, like you're not sure. You tend to like question your own methodology. And
Yeah.
I think I did that a bit during year 12 because I never had any tutors, but to compensate for that, I think obviously you don't need a tutor to succeed at a high level, because I did it and I don't think I'm that special. So I think it's about like going to, even if you're not in a like official tutoring relationship, go to like people who came before you. Like shout out to Zoe. I think she went to John Monash as well, but she's like 3 years older than me, I think. And I knew her from a mutual friend. She was her sister, so she really helped me a lot, and yeah, just gave me so much experience and like perspective on okay, what was it like for her going through? What are like some and she gave me like tons of resources as well. Okay, like some just how to organize your notes. So find those people, find people who did well, and then literally just send them a text like, "Hey, I'm like in the same school, and then I know that you did really well, and I just want some like advice on this." So it doesn't even have to be like just ask like specific little things. Like I remember just asking her, okay, how do you organize your notes for spec? And then she just showed me examples and like, or like, okay, what would you recommend using to like memorize whatever, you know? And then she introduced me to Anki, which I made a video about. So yeah, definitely go find those people, find those mentors for yourself, and it'll help you a bunch. And yeah, you don't necessarily need tutors in my opinion, but they definitely help as well if you can. So yeah.
And another really good resource is ATAR Notes. I remember that would be my go-to place if I had anything to ask. So it's basically you've got a lot of people like mediating your posts, and they previously graduated and got like really good scores in the subjects that they mediate the posts for.
Like they're the
So
mods?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So if you have any questions to ask, you can just type it in there. And a lot of like high achieving students write guides on ATAR Notes, like their advice and stuff on the subject. So I found that helpful to check out. Maybe it was just a good way of procrastinating for me. It's like just scrolling through guides and whatnot, but it was comforting nevertheless. So maybe check it out.
Did you ever find yourself in a trap of like looking up advice when you already know what to do and like spending kind of too much time on it? Because like I felt like I had that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we all do it at some point. It's just a good way to procrastinate, I guess. But I guess the best thing to do then is just to realize and notice that you're in this loop, and then you can kind of work towards getting yourself out of it, you know?
Yeah, I think it's a thing with a lot of stuff that you're trying to learn. Like doing is the best teacher.
Mm,
Like don't kid yourself. You're not gonna like get good by listening to people's advice. Like
definitely.
if you can't solve trig problems, go work on those. Like
Yeah.
no amount of 99 plus ATAR kids advice on how to do methods is gonna help you if you can't like handle the skill. So yeah, so just like I think I want to touch up on the concept of the path of most resistance. And how do you think that applied to you? And like, what would you? Yeah, it's just like, what was that part of your experience, or were you conscious of that?
I think so. So it's like sitting there alone and kind of just studying on your own. Take like it's like yeah, if you have like ego and if you care about what people see from the outside, you probably won't be able to do it, you know? Because it's like you like genuinely look like a loner, you know?
Sure, 100%. Yeah.
So I think that was like the thing for me. It's like I would just put my headphones in and be like, okay, it's fine. I'm just gonna do my own thing now. So in terms of path of least resistance, I feel like looking back now, I can say yeah, I took that path. But when I was in the process
most
of it,
resistance?
I didn't realize
Or least resistance.
most resistance.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like the easier path isn't the most rewarding path. Like, if I chose to not do the work back then, I'd definitely be regretting it now. Even maybe it wouldn't have made a difference of like to like what I'm doing in life at the moment, but it would change the little things, or at least it would change the way I look at myself.
Do you have
So,
any advice on people, for people on how to work smarter? So a lot of people like to think. Okay, I'll talk about this later. So yeah, do you have any tips for people on how to make their work more efficient?
yeah, so I feel like there's always that saying, it's like work harder or work smarter. And I'm a huge believer in working smarter. So at the end of the day in year 12, you want all the time you put in to translate into the score. So you don't want to waste time that won't make a difference at the end. So I guess for me, that was just for methods especially, it was just doing timed practices, and even for English, doing timed essays to make sure that, hey, maybe I can like write a really good essay, but if it takes me 2 hours to do that, then there's no point, you know?
Yeah. I think that's solid. So it's about practicing in the context that you're going to
Definitely.
really do it in. Yeah, that's huge.
And exam styled questions. I know that textbook questions are like way easier than the real thing. They're very simple. So like please don't do all of them or anything. Just move on to like checkpoints and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. Like textbook questions are like for me, it was just to teach you the basics. Like once you get the basics, just stop. Like don't go through and do like 50 of them just because like it's like that feeling of like
Yeah, it feels
collecting
so good.
like a completionist. Is that a
Yeah.
thing? So like
It's not even that. Sometimes it feels good to do easy questions because you do really well in them. But but it's like this is not what you're going to be faced with at the end of the day. And even
Yeah.
though it's hard and it sucks to like suck, just do it and
For
it'll be
sure.
fine.
Yeah. I think what's been a really good guidance for me in doing like pretty much everything, like just in learning in general, is like even if you don't know what is the right path or like what is the correct end goal, doing the hardest thing, doing the most painful thing is usually a good guidance. Like it's kind of
Definitely.
funny, but like it's like your body knows what's good, but like the opposite. It's like because you're
Yeah.
only going to improve when you stress yourself, right? If you just do the stuff you're already comfortable with, then like you're not really growing or challenging yourself. So I think one thing I could have done better during methods and spec was take more time to really do those hard extended response questions, like pretty much just like the last question on SACs. I didn't spend enough time doing that because probably because it was hard. Like I just didn't want to do it, and secondly, like I didn't realize the importance of doing it because I thought, okay, when is that question ever going to come up again? But it's not about that. It's about learning the process of problem solving, which is ultimately what math is about. I think. Like there's obviously if you know the basics, you can get like a 30 something, but if you're aiming high, then that's what ultimately distinguishes you, in my opinion. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. I agree with that. It's just about doing the harder questions. And if it helps, it's like the maths that you do in high school sometimes translates into first year uni maths as well. So, like, it's not for nothing. You'll make your life easier for the next year as well.
It's funny because I remember like if I heard that in 12, I would give zero shits.
No.
Not because like the advice is bad. The advice is 100% correct. Like it's because like I feel like most of us can't really see past year 12. Like it's super
Definitely.
hard. Like we just thought
Like, yeah.
nothing mattered. Like after year 12, I'm gonna
Definitely.
be set. Yeah. So
Yeah. I remember being even younger, like when I was in year 7 or 8 or whatever, you'd think that after year 12, it's all done. Like, but then you realize that that's just like you've just stepped into the real world and this is when it actually starts mattering. It's
yeah,
crazy.
for sure. Yeah, you're still kind of in like the nerfed world. I think in year 12, like you're still getting your hand held a lot.
Yeah.
So me and Anna are just finishing first year uni. Very fun. Never went to campus once.
Actually,
we one day. Oh my god.
god.
But yeah, big sad.
And you know what was funny? We went to school at Monash campus, yet I got lost at Monash campus.
Yeah, for sure.
It was crazy.
That's so funny. I like tell people like I'm from the John Monash and then like I'm already from the campus and they're like, oh damn, so you must like never get lost. I'm like, no, it sucks twice because like first you don't get the fun of exploring a new campus and you still get lost because you can't find like those specific classrooms because like you kind of only know like where the food is. That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you have any advice on so people are approaching the end now? What was your experience with Vtac and applying for uni courses?
I remember okay, so I think the biggest tip is to put your first preference first, in the sense that maybe don't think about what you are most likely to get into. Just put what your dream course is first, because you never know what happens at the end. So as long as so it's like you never know what your ATAR is going to be till the end either, because your exams matter that much, and that's my
And plus,
advice.
like for most courses, you can still change your preferences after the ATAR comes out, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think a really bit of a myth that people believe is that the higher the ATAR, the harder the actual course, or like the more useful the course is. It's like no, not necessarily. Like you don't because for people who get like a high ATAR and they like I know I certainly thought this way for a bit was that okay if I do a low ATAR course I'm kind of like why did I do this one like wasting my score, but like that's not the correct mindset because you need to think about what's the most practical like the best courses for you doesn't necessarily equate to the hardest courses to get into. It's not about just picking the most rare thing, right? That's not necessarily the most beneficial for yourself. It's about picking what you're actually interested in and
Definitely.
what do you think will actually help.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So a lot of like the high scoring people that I know, like I'm talking about my tutors here. So they got like incredibly like high 90s, and one of them did commerce at Melbourne, and the other one did biomed at Melbourne. Not med, guys, not med. So I feel like a lot of people's like
I don't think there is
associate
direct entry med at Melbourne, is there?
at Melbourne there isn't.
Yeah, there isn't. Yeah,
It's like a lot of people associate high ATAR with med, or at least a lot of people at John Monash were aiming to get into med.
me included. Yeah.
But I guess just realizing that there's a life outside of getting into uni. There's also getting a job, and that probably matters more. So my tutor who did commerce, he's like at one of the biggest consulting firms at the moment, and he's doing incredibly well. And the other one that did science is doing Melbourne Med now. So it honestly like comes down to what makes you most content. And that's the end goal. As long as whatever you do like makes you feel happy, then you're good.
For me, I was really lost in myself. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like I was so single-mindedly focused on just getting a good ATAR, which I guess served me well, but how do you kind of build that experience? How do you get to know what sort of stuff you want to do? Like, is it going to random open days? Is it looking to different jobs? Is it asking around people who are in the profession, or what's like your process?
Yeah, so I remember asking the same question to one of my tutors as well. And for him, it was a process of elimination. So it was just like, okay, I'm not interested. So I wasn't interested in anything mathsy or like commerce-y. So it was just like the only thing left for me to do was science. So that's what I did. So sometimes it doesn't have to be you knowing exactly what you want to do. There are so many people at uni in like third year or whatever, and they still don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure. It's hilarious because I know someone who's like, they changed course after 2 years and then they're like starting again and they're like in their fifth year or something. And then they're like, yeah, I know. It's funny.
So it's like, so sometimes you don't have to know what to do. And like, I remember putting so much pressure on myself, like wanting to know, but hey, like we're just 18 years old. It's fine. And if you do know, that's like amazing. But if you don't, you're probably a part of the majority.
Yeah.
And it can be a process of elimination because that works.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So know what you don't want to do. I think that was pretty obvious to me. I was like, yeah, none of arts, none of like, not too into math either. So yeah, but at the end, I think one of my biggest mistakes was that I didn't do it early. Like I literally did zero work and research in terms of Vtac until probably like after exams, to be honest. So I, like outside of the stuff my school forced me to do, I like put like zero thought into it, which I think hurt me a little bit because it was really stressful after that, like doing all this research from scratch and like missing out on, you know, dates to apply for different things. So get into that early and just spend some time. Like for me, looking back now, I would have just set like 20 minutes on Sundays, you know, just take 20 minutes to do some research and like organize your stuff. It's not too complicated, but I think it's about like thinking about it early and getting the work done so you don't panic at the middle because like, yeah, you get a good result, but like you don't even know what you're going to do with it. And yeah, for me it was a lot of stress because like I was thinking about doing a double degree at Monash with biomed and engineering. But then, I don't know, all sorts of factors, like I changed my mind and there was a scholarship with just doing biomed. And I thought I missed that in the first round because I don't know.
That.
I think I might have told you about it, but yeah, it's just be more organized and you'll save yourself a lot of stress because there's no worse feeling than, okay, it technically is not true because I just felt that way. It wasn't like what necessarily happened, but like I thought all my work was wasted because I like missed out on the scholarship. But you know, at the end of the day, it turned out fine. So, but to avoid that stress for yourself, definitely start early.
Yeah, and also unis give out all sorts of scholarships. It's not just academic. So it can be like leadership and stuff as well.
Oh yeah, leadership is huge. So it's funny because it's funny that I say that because I didn't do anything in year 12. Like I don't know about you, Anna. Like, did you do anything during?
Yeah, in year 12 I did a lot of volunteering work.
For our school, or was it
Not
just
for
outside?
school, like for external organizations. So I
Okay.
remember like I think I did like 5 or 6 hours of volunteering work every week.
Yeah, that's so
And
good.
yeah, I feel like it just helped me keep sane. And I've always enjoyed volunteer work. I remember trying to take Kenny as well. And he to
I
like a
probably said no.
daffodil. Yeah, I was trying
Yeah.
to take him to some daffodil day thing, and he just like, no, next year. I'll take me next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did that, and I don't regret it or anything. I think it was a great experience, and I just needed something outside of VCE to take up my time. So for me, I don't really pursue any sports. Well, at least I didn't in year 12. I used to swim like up
Mhm.
until year 10. So I couldn't like take my mind off through a sport. So I did it through volunteer work, and it worked out pretty
Yeah.
good.
Do you want to talk about the importance of resume and like how much your ATAR plays in that role now in uni and versus like how much you thought it did? And like
Yeah,
what's some
lol,
of the
like it
things?
really doesn't. Like employers, like I feel like okay, depends on the kind of like job you're getting into. So for me, for Christmas, I want to do a retail job because I just want the experience, and I don't think they care. I put it on my resume, but it really doesn't matter.
Right,
I've
especially
never,
for retail, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and I've never spoken about it to any of my uni friends. I don't think I've ever had the conversation of ATAR with anyone.
Yeah.
So it's like it's literally for your personal satisfaction. And it's like a lot of the time in the real world, it doesn't matter.
Right. And what do you
Mm,
think does matter now that we're looking from perspective of uni? So if you're going for internships, if you're going
yeah.
for different applications, what do you think
So my
is most
volunteer
important?
work really helped put me like it got me a scholarship as well.
Mm.
So and in terms of so I've worked with my parents before, so that helped. So it's like the real world experience is like you can't compensate for that with scores.
Right, for sure, yeah. And now in uni, I've listened to researchers. So if you want to get into the field of research, a
Mm,
lot of the times, not only do they not give a crap about your ATAR, like ATAR is just out of the question. Also, like uni, I don't think anyone really talks about it. It's about like what you do now. You can't rest on your laurels, if that makes sense. Like
mm,
it's about who you are today. Like yeah, you might have worked your ass off in year 12, but you suck off in uni. Like it doesn't matter what you did before. So
definitely.
yeah, ATAR just gets you through the door, but then afterwards it's like a clean slate for everyone.
Mm,
So yeah, and for research, I was going to say that sometimes they don't even look at your scores. Like they just admit to like saying, okay, we just look for kids who are really into this. Like they actually have the passion for it.
mm,
And I think that's why the advice of like saying do what you're actually interested in. I know like a lot of people don't know what they are, but it's fine. You can find that or you can develop that. So
definitely.
often that's even more important than academic skills. So
Mm,
the more I'm like the more time I spent away, like after year 12, the more I realize how less ATAR matters and how
mm.
much more experiences matter.
Yeah, experience is so important. And I feel like from volunteer work, I learnt so many things. Like, I learnt how to organize an event. And it's like way harder than it seems. Like, there's so much to do when organizing events and stuff.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's irrelevant to like getting a degree or whatever, but if you're trying to like land a job afterwards, like, it helps.
for sure. Yeah, it's like it's not even just like we think like academic skills matter so much, but
Mm,
if you can't be sociable, if you can't work well with other
definitely.
people, like I know it sounds so cheesy. I like hated this stuff when anyone would tell me about teamwork, leadership, but I was like, who gives a shit? Like I'm yeah, but
Yeah.
it's not what you think. Like once you because you can't accomplish much on your own. You have to work with other people. And
Mm,
yeah, as you go from year 12 to working in other team settings in the real world or just even with uni, like we do team projects and then you realize how important it is to have these leadership qualities. So
yeah.
yeah, so
And I
go out.
and
Yep.
And I guess the thing is that you're always developing these skills. Like, you're not going to come out of like one experience and be like, okay, I know everything there is to know about leadership, or I'm a good leader now. It's like there's always more to develop. And through different experiences, you just become a better person overall.
For sure. Yeah. So experiences is super important. And
Mm.
yeah, ATAR is important as well, especially. So, what would you say outside of ATAR? What did you take away the most from year 12?
That's a good question. I've never thought about it that way. Give me 1 second.
Okay, so I'll share how I like sort of looked at it. So, I wrote this in my post on my blog about my VC experience. So, at the end, I mentioned that, okay, honestly, I've forgotten a lot of the content, so that definitely didn't stick. And the ATAR itself, as we've spoken before, it only got me through the door, and now it's just a clean slate. So what actually stuck with me was the skills and attributes I developed during year 12. So it's just about overcoming a challenge, you know. Year 12 is just like any other challenge you're going to overcome in life. So it's about those skills that you learn. So organizing my time, learning how to study, how to put your head down and actually put in the work.
Definitely.
And how to deal with failures and how to deal with setbacks. And like all these like little things we talk about, it's actually bigger than what VC is. It's not about VC anymore. It's about just facing just challenges in your life. So I think that's what's most important to me. And another thing was that I developed the confidence. So not in the sense that, okay, I now think I'm smart and I'm great. In the sense that I know I can handle any challenge, in the sense that like even if I think it's insurmountable, like it sometimes felt in year 12, I know I'll be fine. And now with the skills and tools I've equipped with learning how to learn, I feel so much more confident going to uni. So yeah, I think that's what was most important for me.
Definitely.
With year 12, yeah.
For me, I feel like I also like the people that I met and like made friends with and who I stuck the VC journey through. Like it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. Probably made harder due to my stress, lol. But like Kenny, we studied together heaps. And even when I was super stressed out, like I had people to talk to. And especially family, they were always there for me throughout the whole thing. So the relationships that take you through the whole VC experience, I think really stick with you throughout after VCE as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wasn't the most I didn't socialize too much during year 12. So like a few friends like Anna that I stuck with was that we just kind of had like the similar mindset and but it's never too late. Like I still have friends from high school who I didn't talk to too much, but they still like reach out to you now if they have an opportunity or anything. And you know, it's like the podcast with Raj and Jerry. So yeah, so definitely don't intentionally isolate yourself. Just know your priorities, but at the same time, know that at the end of the day, what you take away is not just the score. At the end of the day, it's people, it's the attributes that actually stick with you. It's the experiences and the memories. So,
and that's what matters at the end. Honestly, it'll get you through life. Like how Kenny mentioned learning to learn, I reckon that's so important. And learning to take setbacks. Like VCE isn't like the only place that you'll face setbacks. Like in the real world, there are way more and they're way more intense. Like, so I guess you just kind of like tread the waters in VC and then they put you in the ocean and there you go, you know?
Yeah, I know. And it's different for everyone. So this is just our experience. Me and Anna are pretty similar, I guess, in our mindset and our experiences. But yeah, so figure out your own path. But definitely, I think there's a lot to take away from this conversation. And yeah, perspective is super important. So try to think about what we said about our perspective now as uni kids now, first year, and because we've been there, you know, like we felt the exact same way. Like we know how it feels, and yeah, so I think that's a good place to end this one on. And it was super nice having you on, and appreciate your time. So
thanks, Kenny. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. All right, laters.
Bye.